Okay, this is theoretical and percent yield warm-up. Will be doing this live, but in case you miss it live, I'm doing it here so you can catch it later. Okay, so theoretical and percent yield warm-up. Okay, so we've got an equation, 2C2H6 plus 7O2 yields 4CO2 plus 6H2O. And the question is, when 125 grams of ethane is combusted, 308 grams of carbon dioxide are formed. What is the theoretical yield and what is the percent yield? Now, in order to do this problem, you have to figure out which one do I use. There's two numbers here. Which number do I use for to figure out the theoretical yield and which one's the actual yield? It's actually very easy. So 125 grams of ethane, which is C2H6. I'm going to put it above it. So 125 grams. And then I have 308 grams of carbon dioxide. Okay, so the reactant, the amount of the reactant, is what I'm going to use to calculate the theoretical yield. The amount of the product, which is CO2, is the actual yield. So just remember that. And guys, if you can't remember that reactants are on the left and products are on the right, we've got some issues going here. So 125 grams is on the left-hand side. It is a reactant. It is what I am going to use to calculate the theoretical yield. 308 grams is the product, okay? And that's what's the actual yield. So before you do anything else, you want to stop the video, okay, and see if you can calculate the theoretical yield and then the percent yield. And then start it again so you can see what I do to make sure you're doing it right, okay? Okay, so here goes with calculating it. Okay, so we're going to take 125 grams of the C2H6. Now remember those steps. They were on the board, so hopefully you have them out from your mass to mass notes. The very first step is I've got to divide what I'm given by the molar mass of the given. Well, I don't have the molar masses here, so let me put them on here. Okay, so when I calculate it, this is 30.08 grams. Okay, and then the CO2 is 44.01 grams. Those are the two molar masses that I'm going to need for this. Okay, now let's go back. So we're going to take it divided by 30.08 grams per mole. Now remember, I told you could do it this way as long as you put the grams per mole. You really don't have to put the substance on the bottom one of this one. So as long as you're doing it exactly the way I'm doing it, or put it in a picket fence, you are good. Okay, so I'm going to cross out my grams. And this equals 4.155 moles of C2H6. And yes, I do have to put number, unit, substance right here. This is what I'm going to put into my next step, which is a mole to mole conversion. So I'm going to make my little picket fence here. And I'm going to use the equation. So I'm going to put moles of C2H6 on bottom. And since I'm looking for CO2, I'm going to put moles of CO2 here. Now I'm going to look in my equation, and I've got 2 moles for down here, 2 moles of C2H6, and the 4 here, 4 moles of O2. Okay, and that's going to give me 8.31 moles of CO2. Now, remember the third step is you take that moles and you've got to multiply it by the molar mass in order to find out the total amount of mass. So 8.31 moles of CO2 times 44.01 grams per mole gives me 366 grams of CO2. Now this is the theoretical yield. Okay, this is what I should have gotten when I did this reaction. I didn't quite get this much. So now I got to figure out how much, how good, what did I do? Did I get 100% yield? Obviously not. But did I at least get close to it? So that's the next part. Okay, oops, sorry. Let me erase that. Okay, so I'm going to move this up a little bit. Okay. Now, the problem said we had 308 grams is what was actually made. 366 grams is what's supposed to be made. Okay, when you do this, you get an 84.2% yield, which actually is not too bad. So there's my first answer, and there's my second answer. Okay, so we're going to do a second one in a minute too. So hopefully you don't have any questions. If you do, if you're still not understanding this, do me a favor, try some of the practice problems and either Snapchat me what you're doing or email me. Or if you want to have a conference, I can have an actual one-on-one conference through Canvas where I can see you and you can see me. But just let me know and I'll set that up. Okay? Okay, let's do the next one. Okay, so now we've got the second one. So when 125 grams of oxygen is reacted with ethane, which of course is the C2H6, 59.1 grams of water is formed. What's the theoretical yield and what's the percent yield? At this point in time, I'd like you to stop the video and try and do this on your own. And then once you have your answer, start it again and you'll see what I do and as I explain on through. Okay, so go ahead, stop the video now. Okay, you've turned back on the video. So let's go ahead. Once again, I like to put the amounts above each thing, and that's what tells me which one is for the theoretical yield and which one's the actual yield. So I'm starting out with 125 grams of oxygen. Okay, that's that one. And then 59.1 grams of water. Now, oxygen is a reactant, so that's what I'm going to use to do the theoretical yield with. So I'm going to start with 125 grams of O2. I'm going to divide it by the 32 grams per mole. And when I do that, I get 3.906 moles of O2. Of course, our grams had canceled out. Okay, so step 2, mole-to-mole conversion. So I've got 7 moles of O2 on the bottom, because if I have mole 2s on top, I have to have moles of O2 on bottom. And then, because I'm looking at water, it's 6 moles of H2O here. When I do that, I get 3.348 moles of H2O. Okay, so now I'm going to take this moles of H2O, 3.348 moles of H2O. Whoops. Can't write very well today. And I'm going to multiply it by the molar mass of H2O, which is 18.02 grams per mole. And I get 60.3 grams of H2O. Now remember, this is now the theoretical yield. This is what I should have gotten. I didn't quite get that much, but it looks like I did pretty good. Okay, so that's our first answer. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to take the amount that was given of the water that was made. That's the actual yield. So that's 59.1 grams divided by 60.3 grams times 100. And I get a 98% yield. I think it was 98.0. Okay, so there we go. Pretty good. Okay, once again, I need you to try the problems, practice problems. If you are having any questions whatsoever, get a hold of me either through Snapchat, email, or through Canvas. So we can set up a conference. I don't mind that. I've got the whole day ahead of me. Okay, you've got this whole time from 7:40 to 2:25 class period with which to get a hold of me today or tomorrow. If you can't do it today, if you've got other things to do with all your other classes, try to start working on them. You can always get a hold of me tomorrow. Now, I will tell you, tomorrow's the study guide. And then Wednesday, we'll be doing a live review, as well as I'll have a Kahoot up there. And then Thursday is the test, and you have between 7:40 and 10:30 to take that test. After 10:30 rolls around, you can't take that test anymore. Okay, so make sure you get it in between that time period. Okay, well, I will hopefully see all of you guys through Canvas conference at some point. Bye.